Good old cider has been a staple in brony culture ever since its first appearance. But is the cider present in the MLP canon actually alcoholic? I'd say that's worth talking about. Good day, my friends, and welcome to Finn Chat, where you get to hear all the crazy ideas floating around in my head. So, what could be said about cider? It's the signature drink of the brony community and has been featured in fan art, fan fictions, fan animations, and there's even an entire festival named after it. Yet despite all this fan-made content, where the cider is clearly shown giving ponies a buzz, there's one fact that everybody has to accept. Whether or not equestrian cider is alcoholic has not been confirmed yet. Never is it directly mentioned in a canon piece of material that cider can get you drunk off your ass. So with this in mind, I ask you this question. Is equestrian cider really alcoholic? Well, to answer this question, we need to look at all of the canon material where cider makes a significant appearance. Let's start with the episode that began the whole cider craze, Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000. It involves the Apple family facing off against the Flim Flam brothers in a pony-on-pony battle to see who can squeeze out the most cider. In general, it's your typical John Henry story of man vs. machine. But we're not here to focus on the story, we're here for the drinks, damn it! As far as the cider is concerned, no explicit details on its contents are given. We just see that pretty much every pony in Ponyville can't get enough of it. However, the time that the cider is being sold is referred to as cider season. Does this name have some kind of important meaning, perhaps? Well, for those who don't know, apples are a food that undergo the process of fermentation, which causes the naturally produced sugars in the fruit to convert to alcohol. Farmers use these alcoholic apples, among other ingredients, to create what is known as hard cider. Soft cider, on the other hand, is simply unfiltered and unsweetened apple juice. Usually some kind of spice like cinnamon or nutmeg is added to it, but no alcohol. So with all this in mind, many people might believe that cider season is the time of the year in the MLP universe when the apples have fermented and hard cider can be made. And this theory does hold a lot of water in my opinion. I mean, yeah, you can always use store-bought yeast and just make hard cider yourself, but when you've got naturally occurring microorganisms that will ferment the fruit by themselves and in mass quantities at a time, then why even bother? Also, for those that are wondering if alcohol even exists in Equestria at all, that I can say is a fact for sure. Why? Because if not, there would be no context for this joke.
And now the punch has been spiked!
So, we've already got a fair amount of evidence that cider could be 21 plus, but what about the other side of the coin? Any evidence that cider is an alcoholic? Well, first of all, there's no explicit mention in the canon. There are certain hints at it, like the possible meaning of cider season that I mentioned earlier, but there is no spoken, written, or even illustrated example in the canon of cider containing alcohol. But hey, just because it isn't explicitly stated doesn't mean it isn't true. Do I have anything else? Yes, I do. Think about this for a second. Aside from the period of cider season and Super Squeezy, is there any other point in the show where Apple Family cider is being sold to the public? Well, from what I've seen, no. It was just during that period only. So if I combine the once-a-year timeline with how excited every pony is for it to come out, could it be possible that the cider is just really good-tasting apple juice, and that the family only releases it on a yearly basis during the cider season period? This actually isn't too odd of an idea when you think about it. I've seen a lot of products that are only sold during certain times of the year, and because a lot of people really love them, they make mass purchases before they go off the shelves and they have to wait until next year. Heck, I love vanilla frosted Oreos, but they're only available for purchase during the Christmas season, so when that time rolls around, I buy a bunch before I have to endure a year-long hiatus again. If you want a fictional example of this, look no further than another show Lauren Faust worked on, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. In the episode Cookie Dough, Boo tries to raise money to get Foster's home a new roof. Madam Foster is touched by Blue's actions and gives him a plate of special cookies. And it is revealed later that these cookies are only made once a year. Heck, the way Frankie acts towards the cookies is pretty much no different than the way the Ponyville residents act towards the cider. And it's not like Madam Foster laced the cookies with some kind of drug or anything. Heck, if they did, they'd probably get arrested for selling them to the public. People just like the cookies because they're really good. So there's also the possibility that the cider is just really good. The only other time in the series that we see Apple Family cider being made is for Maud and Maud Pie. And notice that it's being made privately for a friend and not sold to the public. I guess you could argue that this little compartment of Applejack's card in The Best Night Ever could be cider as well, but it's never referred to as such, even when she's telling Sora in the items for sale. For all we know, both of these could just be plain old apple juice, being sold both in cups and in bottles for different prices. The last thing I want to bring up is whether or not Flim and Flam fit into this whole theory, and from what I can gather, they could honestly fit on either side of this whole scenario. Note that they use the exact same apples as the Apple family when they make their cider. So one could argue that since they both use the same apples, then the natural alcohol from the apples could be in both drinks, but it's also possible that the brothers have just found a recipe for their own really good tasting apple juice. I mean, no one says something like, "This tastes just like the Apple family made it." The most we get is a smile from Granny, hinting that it's good. That's it. So I'd honestly say that they could support either side. So as you can see, there is evidence to support both sides of this argument. But now that I've given my 2 bits, I want to hear from you. Where do you stand on this whole debate? Alcoholic or non-alcoholic? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Personally, I think it's non-alcoholic, but that's just me. Well, that's our show. So long, bronies and Adventure Time fans. Remember to keep riling those brains. You never know what you might come up with.